Hey, what's up? This is Mr. Ippolito. Today we're going to go over Bill of Rights scenarios. Before we jump into the scenarios, though, I want to point this out to you. You should read this first. This is called You've Got Rights. It's some background on the Bill of Rights. So I'd like for you to read this first. And then once you're done reading that one pager, then you turn it over. And this is the Bill of Rights, complete with the reason why I give you this Bill of Rights. There's one in your textbook. There's also one in your pocket constitution. The reason I give you this one is because the most important parts for the purpose of our class are in bold. So that's why I want you to have that one. All right, so go ahead and read this first, and then when you're ready, let's go ahead and move on. All right, there's that Bill of Rights right there, and you want to have this handy because you'll need this as we start going through each one of the scenarios. Here's scenario number one. Let me move this over to this side. Sarah, an 18-year-old college student, is arrested for stealing a classmate's term paper and selling it online. When she appears before the judge, she asks for a lawyer to help defend her. The judge tells her if she's smart enough to be in college, she's smart enough to defend herself. Besides, she is not being charged with a felony, so the stakes are not very high. So there are three questions I'm always going to ask, and this handout right here, these exercises, these Bill of Rights scenarios, this is the same as what you're going to see in your Bill of Rights quiz. I'm always going to ask you the same three questions. Number one, what is the amendment or what are the amendments that are in play here? In other words, which amendment or amendments could possibly apply in this case? If you were taking this to court, what amendments might you be bringing up? Number two, is the government violating someone's rights in this case? So number one, what amendment or amendments? Number two, is the government violating rights in this case? And then number three, explain, right? Elaborate so that I know that you understand which amendment is at play and how it applies in this particular case. So you're going to answer each one of these by looking at the Bill of Rights and figuring out, in this particular case, all right, it's something about the judge is telling her that she doesn't need an attorney, and she's asking for a lawyer. So what could it possibly be? Think about it. You be the judge. All right, and the answer is, let me move my face over here now. The answer is the Sixth Amendment. The Sixth Amendment, at the end of the Sixth Amendment, it says you have the right to assistance of counsel for your defense. Counsel is a fancy way of saying a lawyer or an attorney. So in this particular case, Sarah's rights are being violated because the judge, on behalf of the government, is telling her she doesn't need a judge. She is requesting a judge, and she has the right to an attorney in this case. So that's the answer for scenario number one. Let's move on to scenario number two. Jackson accidentally hits a baseball through a classroom window during PE. The school charges his parents $350 to replace it. When they refuse, the school district takes them to small claims court, but the judge denies their request for a jury trial, saying, quote, it's too small of a case for a jury. So again, looking at the Bill of Rights, which of the amendments applies in this case? Look at all 10, and then decide, is the government violating someone's rights in this case? And then if so, go ahead and explain. And also, let me tell you something else. While we're going over the Bill of Rights, it may be helpful. You'll notice that there are Roman numerals there, right? Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If it makes it easier for you, you can go ahead and write the Arabic numerals, right? Those are the typical numbers that we would use in math class. This number 2 right here is in Arabic numerals. So if you'd like, you can go ahead, and a lot of students are writing 1, 2, 3, like in the numerals that we're used to. So if you'd like to do that, you can. And now you be the judge for scenario 2. All right, and the answer in this case is the Seventh Amendment. The Seventh Amendment says that in suits at common law, basically what that means is there are two different types of courts in the United States. There's civil courts and criminal courts. In a criminal court, you're being charged with a crime, right? You're being charged with breaking the law, and you could potentially face jail or prison time. This is not a criminal case. This is a civil case, right? It's a lawsuit, right? Somebody does something wrong to somebody else. In this case, Jackson accidentally hit a baseball through a classroom window, and now the family is being asked to pay for it because Jackson was being negligent. He should have hit the ball this way. He hit the ball this way instead. He didn't commit a crime, right? It's not considered vandalism. It wasn't on purpose, but it was negligent. Like, he should have known better, and he should take responsibility for the breaking of the window. So in this case, it is the Seventh Amendment because it basically says anytime you have a civil suit, a suit of common law, and it's over $20, which this is clearly over $20. Every lawsuit today is over $20. Then you have the right to a jury trial. Seventh Amendment. All right, let's move on now to scenario 3. Maddie is arrested for shoplifting a candy bar from Circle K. She's found guilty, and the judge sentences her to 12 months in prison. Again, answer the 3 questions. What right do you think is being violated here? What amendment is involved here? Are Maddie's rights being violated by the government? In this case, the judge is representing the government. And then explain. All right, what do you think the answer is? It is the 8th Amendment, right? The 8th Amendment, if you look, scroll down. It's a paper. Look down at the bottom of your paper. There's the 8th Amendment right there. This is not excessive bail. Bail is the money that you put up if you're accused of a crime and you are in jail awaiting trial. Bail is the money you put forward to the court saying, you know what, I promise that I will show up for my trial appearance, right? So you go to the courthouse, or rather your family or friends might go to the courthouse and post $5,000 bail, $10,000 bail, $25,000. It depends on the severity of the crime you're being accused of. We would normally keep you in jail if you were accused of a crime to make sure that you're gonna actually be there for the trial. However, if you post bail, that is a guarantee. That's a money guarantee that you're actually going to show up for the trial. If you don't, the court keeps your bail, right? The court keeps that money. So that's bail. This is not an issue of bail. This is an issue of cruel and unusual punishment. 12 months for stealing a candy bar. That is excessive. That is cruel and unusual punishment. We have a principle in the United States known as the punishment must fit the crime. If you steal a pencil off of Mr. Ippolito's desk, I'm going to have a conversation with you. You shouldn't be taking my stuff. But I'm not going to call the cops on you if you steal a pencil from my desk. If you steal my phone, if you steal my wallet, then I will get the authorities involved, right? Then it's a much more serious crime. The punishment must fit the crime. All right. Yeah, we're not going to watch the Singapore. No. Moving on. All right. Scenario number 4. James is an avid hunter who keeps 2 rifles locked in a cabinet at home. After police see him hanging out with some young people who have a bad reputation, they show up without a warrant, without a search warrant, and they take his rifles, saying they, quote, don't trust him anymore. So this is police approaching James. We're going to assume that he's an adult who is allowed to own guns. What are the amendment or amendments? In this case, there are a couple of different amendments at play. Are his rights being violated? And then explain. So what do you think's going on here? And the answer is, first of all, the Second Amendment. Rifles, even in a state like California that has pretty strict gun laws, you are allowed to own rifles for the purpose of hunting. This is not, we're not talking rocket propelled grenades. We're not talking, any high powered machinery. These are hunting rifles. So that is it. Assuming that he's an adult, that is his Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. So that's the First Amendment. That's the First Amendment that's at play here. The second one that's at play is it says that they show up without a warrant. In order for anybody to enter your home, authorities to enter your home, the police to enter your home, they need to have a search warrant signed by a judge, and that is your Fourth Amendment rights, your protection against unreasonable search and seizure. So James' rights were violated, his Second Amendment right to bear arms, his Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable search and seizure. So both of those. If you wanted to throw it in there, it's not quite as strong of a case, but you could also make the case, you could also make the case that it was, let's go back. That it was peaceably assembled. It said that he was hanging out with some young people who have a bad reputation. That's what's called freedom of association, right? You're not guilty just because you're hanging out with people who have done bad things in the past. That's freedom, the right to peaceably assemble. We're going to talk more about that later. But the 2 strongest arguments here are, if I can click, there we go. First, the 2 strongest arguments, Second Amendment and Fourth Amendment. All right, let's move on. Carter, a high school junior, burns a small handheld flag during a protest outside Santa Clarita City Hall to show his anger about local curfew laws. Sheriff's deputies arrest him and fine him $100 for disrespecting the flag. Are Carter's rights being violated by the government? In this case, the government would be the sheriff's department. Are his rights being violated? And if so, which amendment is at play? The answer is these are his First Amendment rights. Now, burning a flag, this was actually brought up in this went all the way to the Supreme Court. Texas has a reputation for being highly patriotic and highly, a lot of people have a lot of respect for the American flag, as we do all across the country. I respect the American flag as well. They love and respect the American flag so much in Texas that they made a law saying that you were not allowed to burn the flag in Texas in protest. And if you did, then you would be punished for it. And so this actually went all the way to the Supreme Court. These are Carter's First Amendment free speech rights. Now, some students say, well, he wasn't speaking, he was burning a flag. That is considered a form of symbolic speech or protest speech. And so that's what that was there. Okay, moving on to scenario number 6. Thomas, an 8th grader, wears a bright red cap that says Trump 2028 to his middle school. The school principal asks him to take it off because the slogan is too political and could distract other students. Thomas refuses and is suspended for 3 days. Are Thomas's constitutional rights being violated by the government? In this case, we're going to assume that this is a public school, right? Public school principal. So because it's a public school, I'm a public school teacher. I represent the government. This school principal is a public school principal representing the government. Are Thomas's constitutional rights being violated? The answer is yes, it's his First Amendment rights. So First Amendment rights say that you have the right to freedom of speech. Again, just like the flag burning, this is considered political speech. This is protected political speech. So again, freedom of speech, that includes your clothing. And so in this case, even though he is at a school that can set dress codes really cannot limit political speech unless it's causing a huge disruption, unless it's causing violence. A Trump 2028 hat, it might cause some conversation. It's not going to cause violence. Bonus scenario. Let's follow up. This was an actual case that happened in 2023. A Michigan middle school student wore a hoodie to school that said, "Let's go, Brandon." His principal ordered him to remove the hoodie, claiming it was vulgar and disruptive. BA, because it was a minor, they only used his initials in court. BA argued that his shirt was simply political speech. This is the actual hoodie that he was wearing. Now, did this Michigan middle school, this public school, did they violate this kid's constitutional rights? This case was just decided in federal court last month, and the answer is no. The school did not violate his rights, and here's why. If you've never heard of the phrase, "Let's go, Brandon," it goes back to 2021. President Joe Biden had just recently been sworn into office in January of 2021. If you remember a few years ago, the 2020 election, it was very contentious between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Donald Trump lost. Donald Trump was not happy that he lost. His supporters were not happy that he lost. And so Trump supporters were still upset going into 2021 in the beginning of Joe Biden's presidency. At a NASCAR event, NASCAR is car racing, where there happened to be a lot of Trump supporters at this NASCAR event. At the conclusion of the race, a race car driver named Brandon, I don't know his last name, won the race. And the crowd started chanting, "F Joe Biden, F Joe Biden, F Joe Biden." It was the full F word. I'm just saying the letter F because I'm a teacher. And this is my YouTube channel. So they were saying the full F word. The reporter, the sports reporter, right, the commentator who was interviewing the winning race car driver, Brandon, is like, "Oh my goodness." She heard the phrase and she's like, "Oh my goodness, they're chanting 'Let's go, Brandon.'" They were not chanting "Let's go, Brandon." They were chanting "F Joe Biden," right? But because of this gaffe, now we're not sure, did she actually mishear them? Did she hear them wrong? And she really thought they were chanting "Let's go, Brandon"? Or was she just trying to turn it into something positive because she didn't want to say the F word on camera on live TV? We may never know. We don't know what her intention was. But what we do know is that Trump supporters all across the country took this phrase, "Let's go, Brandon," and they turned it into merchandise. They turned it into hoodies. They put it on hats. They put it on T-shirts. They put it on bumper stickers. Like, this became a protest slogan against Joe Biden and in support of former President Donald Trump, now once again current President Donald Trump. So the question before the court is this the equivalent of the F word, right? Is this the equivalent of a vulgar phrase? And the court decided that it was. And so wearing this shirt, you're free to wear this shirt out in public, right? That's between you and your parents. You are free to wear this hoodie walking down McBean Parkway. You are free to wear this hoodie to the farmer's market or to other public places. But when it comes to schools have a right and an obligation, according to the courts, to protect minors because there are children at school, to protect them from vulgar statements, from drug-related statements, from alcohol-related statements on clothing or symbols on clothing, hats, socks, etc. So that's why the school can dress code you for a "Let's Go, Brandon" hoodie, but not necessarily dress code you for the Trump 28 hoodie or hat. All right. Moving on, scenario 7, Ryan, captain of the school football team, is told that all athletes must take a drug test to stay eligible to play. He feels this is an invasion of privacy and refuses to take the test. The school suspends him from the team. If you're keeping score, if you're keeping track, we're now turning the paper over, right? The paper is now turned over. Am I going to collect this? You ask me whether or not I'm going to collect this. It depends on the class. But this is, if for nothing else, this is really good practice because this is what the actual quiz is going to be. The actual quiz, when you take the quiz, what's the amendment? Was the amendment violated by the government? Explain your answer. So, you want to make sure that you're jotting down these details, right? That you're taking careful notes on this. Go ahead and take a look at the Bill of Rights. Are Ryan's rights being violated in this particular case? Take a look, figure it out, jot it down. And the answer is they are. It's the Fourth Amendment. It's unreasonable search and seizure. Now, unreasonable search and seizure oftentimes applies to people's homes, right? Police can't come in without a warrant. It applies to your vehicle. Once you start driving, if police pull you over, if you've been swerving all over the road and they have probable cause to believe that you were drunk driving, they can search your vehicle. If they just pull you over, right? Like maybe because you're speeding, can they search your vehicle? No, they don't. They don't have probable cause. But a lot of times vehicle owners get tricked into getting their car searched. Cops will pull them over. Cops will say, we know you're not doing anything wrong. Like you know that you're not doing anything wrong. You know that you have nothing to hide. You mind if you just step out of the car and we have a look around your car? They're trying to trick you, and cops can legally trick you. Do not be tricked by the cops. If police pull you over and if they're like, you don't mind if we take a look through your car, you ask them politely, do you have a warrant? Do you have a warrant to search this vehicle? If not, I respectfully decline. I do not consent to this search. I do not consent to this search, right? Get it recorded on their body cam. If you happen to be recording when you get pulled over, if you happen to be recording on your phone, I do not consent to this search. And that way you have proof that you did not consent to a search of your vehicle. You have the protection, the Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable searches and seizures of your home, of your vehicle. And in this case, it's a search of your body, right? A drug test is a search of your body. But the question here is it unreasonable for a school district to drug test, to do this kind of search, right? Basically, you're testing urine for athletes. And the answer is, it actually is considered reasonable by the courts. This was a court case, the Vernonia School District versus Acton, drug testing in the schools. Here's what school districts cannot do. School districts cannot randomly drug test all the kids. That is considered an invasive and unreasonable search. If you're just like, I think some of these kids have drugs, we're going to search everybody randomly. You can't do that at a public school. You can in a private school, they can make different rules. But in a public school, you can't randomly search every kid. However, you can make drug testing a condition of becoming an athlete, right? You just need to put it in the contract, have the student sign it, have the parent sign it, and then for athletes, you can make it a condition of participating in high school sports. Okay. Scenario number 8, a teenager named Marcus, he has gotten in trouble before, is brought in by the police for questioning about a robbery near his neighborhood. They never tell him he has the right to remain silent or to have a lawyer. After hours of questioning, he finally admits that he was around the store that night, and they use that statement to charge him with the crime. So the question is, are Marcus's rights being violated? He's brought in for questioning. There's been a robbery. He finally admits, yeah, I was in the vicinity. I was in the area when the store got robbed that night. He finally, after hours of interrogation, admits to that. First of all, which amendments are in play here, right? So let's take a look here. Oh, first of all, jot down your answer. And now let's take a look. You have the right to remain silent. Right to remain silent is your Fifth Amendment right. Amendment 5. You nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. If you've ever heard the phrase, I plead the Fifth, you are invoking your Fifth Amendment privilege, your right to remain silent, right? So you have the right to not testify against yourself if you're being questioned by police, or if you're they also can't put you on the witness stand if you're in court. Also, Amendment 6, the right to an attorney, right? We've talked about this before, assistance of counsel for his defense. So Amendment 5 and Amendment 6 are both in play here. Now the question is, did the police violate Marcus's constitutional rights? The answer is, it depends. The scenario here never says that he got arrested prior to the questioning. So this is where it would make a difference. And this, again, is where police are legally allowed to trick you. Police can stop you and say, hey, you probably are, you probably have nothing to do with this. You probably you're probably fine. But I just that there's been a problem in your neighborhood. We want to keep this neighborhood safe. Do you mind if we just ask you a few questions? That seems innocent enough. Oh, sure. Okay. I'll answer a few questions. Yeah, can we just it's going to be easier if we just take you into the station. Can we just drive you down to the station? You notice we're not putting any handcuffs on you. We're just going to cruise down to the station. We're going to ask you a few questions. No arrest has been made yet, right? So they can bring you down to the station. They can ask you a few questions. Hey, you're providing some really helpful information for us and keeping our community safe. We're going to ask you a few more questions. Were you there? Were you in the neighborhood? Are you sure? Are you sure? Hours later. Okay, fine. I was there. Boom. You are under arrest. What? They do not have to tell you that you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. They do not have to tell you you have the right to an attorney if you cannot afford one. One will be pointed to you before any further questioning until after they've made the arrest. So before then, it's all questioning and you're just volunteering all this information. And what you're doing is you're giving police evidence, right? You're giving police evidence that they can use against you. Even if you did nothing wrong, you are giving evidence that could be used to prove that you did do something wrong. So if you were ever stopped by police, the advice that attorneys often give is just this simple phrase. Are you detaining me or am I free to go? I will say that phrase again. Are you detaining me or am I free to go? That will end a police encounter right just like that. Because if they truly have enough evidence to make an arrest, right? They need to have at least some evidence because they're going to need to go once the police make that arrest. They have 48 hours. The clock starts ticking the moment they arrest you. They have 48 hours to bring you before a judge for what's called an arraignment, to actually have formal charges brought against you in a court. If they're not ready to do that, if they're not ready, like they don't really have much on you, they're just trying to figure out what happened and gather information, then they're not going to make the arrest. They're just going to ask a few questions. Just ask a few friendly questions. And once they feel they have enough from you, then they can make that arrest. So the phrase is simple. Are you detaining me or am I free to go? If they're detaining you, then they're placing you under arrest. They have enough against you. They're going to charge you with a crime. But if not, they have to let you go. Are you detaining me or am I free to go? Scenario 9, your parents are very religious, but you're not. They tell you that if you want to live under their roof, we're now on number 9. Again, you're jotting these down and you're going to check with Mr. Ippolito. Wait, are you collecting this? Are you grading this? Yes or no? Check with Mr. Ippolito if you're not sure. Your parents are very religious, but you're not. They tell you that if you want to live under their roof, you must attend church with them every Sunday. You complain that this violates your First Amendment right to freedom of religion. Are you right? What do you think? And the answer is, well, first of all, this is the First Amendment, right? Freedom of religion. The free Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Remember what I told you at the very beginning. Is the government violating your rights? Your parents are not the government. Therefore, your parents can tell you what to do. Your parents can tell you where to go. Your parents can tell you we're going to church on Sunday or we're going to mosque on Friday or we're going to temple on Saturday. Like they can tell you, yes, we're going to religious services. Now, there have been some students who have pointed out, they tell you that if you want to live under their roof, wait, are they going to kick me out if I don't go to church? No, these parents are just making an idle threat, an empty threat, as some parents do sometimes. But the bottom line is, yeah, if they kick you out, then it's child endangerment or child abuse. That's a different matter. But simply making you go to religious services, not a violation of your First Amendment rights. I asked AI to generate an image of 2 religious parents with a teenager who does not want to go to religious services. They appear to have Muslim-looking head coverings, the parents, but crosses around their necks. So are they Muslim Christians? This religious place looks like a church. So I'm confused. AI is definitely not always perfect. And the teenager, they did get a disinterested teenager. Very good. Okay. Scenario 10, a recent spike in patriotism. We're going to move a little faster now. Across the country has led to the recruitment of thousands of new military recruits because of the increased numbers. The provided barracks is just military housing, at military bases cannot house all the new soldiers. In response, Congress passes a law requiring married empty nesters, that's me and my wife, our daughter has now moved out to go to college, to house 1 to 2 soldiers with compensation. So the question is, according to the Constitution, can the government force you, if they pay you, can they force you to house soldiers in a time of peace? Take a look at the Bill of Rights. Figure this out. And the answer is they can. They can. Let's take a look at the Third Amendment. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered Oh, I'm sorry. No, they can. Sorry, I'm going to back up. They can house them in a time of war, but not in a time of peace, right? No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner prescribed by law. If it's peacetime, we're assuming this is peacetime here. They can't do it. If it's a time of war, then they just make a law to make it fair for everybody that says this is how it's going to be. We have never needed this. We have never needed to invoke the Third Amendment. Why? Because fortunately, we've never been invaded. We've never had to house American soldiers on American soil. Here's why this was important, though. Because back in the 1780s and the 1790s, when they were thinking about this, they were still stinging from the Quartering Act, right? The Quartering Act, where Great Britain was forcing American colonists to house British redcoat soldiers in their homes. So it was a big deal. Housing quartering troops was a big deal in the late 1700s. It's really, really doesn't apply today. Scenario 11, to encourage more young Americans to go to college, trade school, or the military before settling down. Congress passes a law called the Marriage Age Act, which says no one can get married until age 21. Anna, who just turned 18, plans to marry her partner after graduation, but is told it is illegal under the new federal law. Is Anna, are her constitutional rights being violated by Congress? Yes or no? Take a look at the Bill of Rights. Which amendment applies here? And the answer is yes. Her 10th Amendment rights are being violated. Here's why. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. The 10th Amendment is what completes federalism, right? Federalism. The Venn diagram. Did I put it in here? Oh, I'm so smart. We called them, when we were learning about them previously, national powers, state powers, shared powers. Some Venn diagrams are going to see delegated powers, reserved powers, concurrent powers. It's the exact same thing. These are national powers here. These are reserved powers, the state powers here. All right, just had a visitor at my door. So the 10th Amendment says if the Constitution doesn't delegate power to Congress, in other words, the Constitution doesn't give the United States government the right to do it, then the United States can't do it, can't touch it. Stay in your lane, Congress. Stay in your lane, United States government. It says all the rest of that stuff is reserved. It's reserved to the states. These are state powers, including marriage and marriage law, divorce law, child custody law, marriage and family laws. That's all for the states, right? And that is the 10th Amendment. So if you see this kind of, question on the test, it is, if it involves anything related to state powers, it's probably a 10th Amendment issue. Okay, moving on to the final scenario. Number 12, the Hernandez family lives in a rapidly developing neighborhood. The city writes a letter to the family to inform them that their home is being taken by the government with compensation to build a new Walmart. So the question is, can the government take private property with compensation if it is for the public good? Take a look at your Bill of Rights, see if that's included anywhere in there. I'll give you a moment. And the answer is yes, they can. It's right down at the end of the Fifth Amendment. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Now, here's something that makes sense to pretty much everybody. Back in the 1950s and 1960s, Los Angeles, Southern California area was growing rapidly. And so we needed freeways, right? Today we travel on freeways all the time. We travel through LA. The freeways that go right through the city, right through the middle of LA. Did we have to demolish some houses, some neighborhoods to make room for those freeways? Yes, we did. And so we use a term called eminent domain. You can see the term right here. Let's bring this over. You can see this word right here, eminent domain. The idea of eminent domain is that there's some land that is so important to the public that the government can seize it, pay you fair market value for your property, and you don't have a choice. You don't have a say. You have to say yes to this. And so when it comes to a freeway, pretty much everybody can agree, oh yeah, sometimes we need to seize private land for public use. The question is, what about a Walmart? Can the government take away your property and sell it to Walmart so that Walmart can have the property? And the answer in this Supreme Court case, Kelo versus City of New London, was yes. Here's the situation. There was a neighborhood, there was like a city block that was kind of run down, right? Rats, cockroaches. It was bringing the rest of the property values of all of the surrounding properties around it, bringing that property value down. It was deemed by the city of New London, Connecticut, to be kind of a drag on the rest of the city. And so Walmart comes in and is like, you know what we could do? If you sell us this property, we could bring in new jobs to the city and we could make it so that this is a thriving place of business. And so the city of New London, Connecticut basically told all these people living in this city block, you know what? We're going to buy your home. We're going to kick you out and we're going to build a Walmart here. And it was very controversial. Ultimately, it ended up going to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said in this case building that Walmart was for the public good. Not everyone agrees with every Supreme Court decision. Certainly the people living in New London in that neighborhood were upset that they were forced out of their homes. But in this case, it was considered taking private property for public use, and the Walmart in that case was considered public use. Okay, I've talked for 30 minutes. Thanks so much for hanging in, and hopefully you've learned more about the Bill of Rights and you're more prepared for when we have that Bill of Rights scenarios quiz coming up in just a few days. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.